Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing the first season of House of the Dragon. Before we get started, I just want to clarify why I've been absent for the last 3 weeks, and that's because I've been working on what I consider to be my #1 priority, and that's my debut novel. And as of this recording, I'm almost done with it before I get into the editing stages. I'm still going to be doing YouTube, but I'm not going to be putting out too many videos for the rest of the year. So House of the Dragon is a prequel to Game of Thrones, and it's set about 200 years before the events of that show, to be more specific, and it focuses on the Targaryens, long before Daenerys was born. It was created by Ryan Condal and George R.R. Martin himself, and thankfully D&D were not involved in this project. Who knows, maybe they just kind of forgot there was a prequel happening in the first place. This series is based on Fire and Blood, which is written by George R.R. Martin and acts as a history book as far as the Targaryen bloodline is concerned, though season 1 of House of the Dragon only adapts parts of it. I haven't read it yet. In fact, I haven't even read the Song of Ice and Fire series yet, even though I own all of the books. But I have seen Game of Thrones in its entirety, and I have a full playlist that I'll put a card for if you want to check that out. So I went into this series not really knowing what to expect and kind of lowering my expectations, given that this was just a prequel and, Game of Thrones pretty much destroyed its own legacy thanks to the final season. That being said, I actually enjoyed House of the Dragon quite a bit. I think it's one of the best TV shows I've seen all year long, and in my opinion, it has the potential to rival Game of Thrones in terms of quality. So let's get into it. So what I really appreciate about House of the Dragon is that it's a lot smaller in scale and a lot more contained than Game of Thrones was, making it easier to follow and easier to digest. Whereas Game of Thrones would focus on about 6 to 7 different storylines at a time, House of the Dragon only focuses on about 3 or 4, so across 10 episodes, it was much easier to engage with. I also like some of the characters here. I'm not going to delve into all of them because otherwise we'll be here all day long, but yeah, there were some really great characters in this first season, and they're easily among the best in the entire Game of Thrones universe. Firstly, you have King Viserys Targaryen, played by Paddy Considine. He is the 5th king of the 7 kingdoms and the father of Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen. He's a very kind, warm, and decent man, and in some ways, he almost reminds me of Ned Stark from Game of Thrones, just because they embody similar human qualities. Then we have Daemon Targaryen, the younger brother of Viserys, played by Matt Smith, who we all know as the 11th Doctor in the Doctor Who franchise, and he was also in Morbius, the greatest movie ever made. That was a joke. He's commonly known as the Rogue Prince, mainly for his unpredictable behavior. And every time he was on screen, he was just a blast to watch. And that's due in large part to Matt Smith's incredible performance. There's Sir Otto Hightower, played by Rhys Ifans, who you might remember from The Amazing Spider-Man as Dr. Kurt Connors, aka the Lizard. He serves as the Hand of the King. Sound familiar? There's also Lord Corlys Velaryon, the Lord of Driftmark and the head of House Velaryon, and his wife, Princess Rhaenys Targaryen, who is also the sister of King Viserys. These two are among the wealthiest and most powerful families in the 7 kingdoms. And that leaves us with the 2 most important characters of the show, Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen, the daughter of King Viserys, and Alicent Hightower, the daughter of Sir Otto. These two start out as best friends in their teen years, but as they get older, things change obviously. They both had 2 actors playing the teenage and adult versions of their characters, and all 4 of the actresses playing these characters did a wonderful job. They both have aspirations of their own, and this leads to conflict throughout the season. And because of this, people are going to speculate about this show just as much as they did Game of Thrones. Whereas in Game of Thrones, people were speculating about who would sit on the Iron Throne. Would it be Jon Snow? Would it be Daenerys Targaryen? Would it be Cersei Lannister? And if you've watched the show, you know the answer to that. In House of the Dragon, however, it all boils down to you either rooting for Team Green or Team Black. In other words, Team Alicent or Team Rhaenyra. You know, obviously all of these characters aren't around in Game of Thrones, but the big question still remains. Who comes out victorious? At the moment, I don't quite know who to root for, especially since we're only one season in so far. Let me know in the comments how you think this is going to play out. The show also incorporates time jumps to move things along, which is something I didn't really expect because Game of Thrones didn't implement any time jumps in it. You know, there it didn't make sense to do so. And for the most part, they're pretty effective. They're not perfect, but I can appreciate the faster pace compared to Game of Thrones. Plus, this show has all of the Game of Thrones isms, if that makes sense, you know? It has alliances, it has incest, betrayals, arranged marriages. It has some very shocking moments, and it knows just how to subvert expectations the right way, not in a Game of Thrones Season 8 kind of way. And the implications that the finale had for the show going forward, I thought were perfect, and I cannot wait to see what happens next. Now, this show is so close to perfection, but I still have a few minor nitpicks with it. Firstly, as much as I love the title sequence, I don't like the fact that the show reused the Game of Thrones theme music. It just feels like a marketing tactic and also a cheap way to give people the nostalgia tickles, if that makes sense. Now don't get me wrong, the music in the show is amazing, due in large part to the return of Ramin Djawadi. But who knows, maybe he wanted to come up with new theme music, but HBO refused to allow him to do that. So honestly, I would have preferred something new. I mean, most TV spin-offs come up with their own theme music. Better Call Saul did it, Fear the Walking Dead did it. In fact, animes change up their theme music with each subsequent season. Plus, there is a scene in the show where the lighting is a bit too dim. It's nowhere near as dark as the Battle of Winterfell in Season 8 of Game of Thrones, but I would have preferred a bit more brightness. I respect the fact that it was done for artistic reasons, but when you're trying to cater to different types of devices, it's gonna be a challenge. Another thing is the issues I have with the time jumps. You know, sometimes they rob us of our ability to fully invest ourselves in certain emotional moments or certain side characters, and over the course of the time jumps, some of the characters don't really age all that much, which felt weird. Plus, I was so invested in Rhaenyra and Alicent during their teen years that a part of me wished the show had focused on that a little bit more. But anyway, these are just small issues I have with the show. Other than that, the show's incredible. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Season 1 of House of the Dragon. Honestly, I think this is the best installment in the Game of Thrones universe since Season 1 of Game of Thrones. And with Season 2 currently being in production, I honestly cannot wait to see it, hopefully by next year. So next time guys, I'm going to be discussing my very brief and basic thoughts on the Walking Dead comics, because the show is almost over. We've got about 3 episodes left as of this recording, and yeah, I always knew I was going to discuss this on my channel. So look forward to that very soon, and yeah, thank you all for watching guys. Please be sure to like the video, share it and subscribe. Ring the bell, take care, and I'll see you soon.